Hello, welcome to my podcast. Now, this is a conversation with lots of people I really admire. It's a chat about success, health, and happiness, and I know you're going to enjoy it. So, without further delay, let's get started now. Hello. So today's topic is one that I think many of us will be interested in. We're talking about adopting a healthy lifestyle. And I think throughout our lives, we've all read the articles, we've seen the podcasts, we've heard the, recommendations about how to be healthier. And I really believe that most of us know what to do. We know what to eat. We know to increase our vegetables, to do a bit more exercise. But even still, there seems to be a great barrier that stands between what we know and what we do. So we're going to tackle that topic today. And I'm so pleased to have Dr. Vanja Ljevar with us today to discuss this very issue. Welcome, Vanja.
Thank you so very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Fantastic. So, Vanja, what do you think about this? I mean, it's really difficult for a lot of people, women and men, to take on healthier habits. And you, through your research, had some thoughts around why. So could you just tell everybody a little bit about who you are, what your background is, and what you think about this healthy lifestyle?
So I am a co-founder of Cubic Intelligence. It's a behavioral analytics consultancy. I am a chief data scientist in the company, but I also have one foot in academia as well. So I did a combined mixed PhD at the University of Nottingham, which was in data science and psychology. I am also an advisory board member at the University of Nottingham Business School, which is a great honor, and a guest lecturer at the master's course. But in terms of my background and my research about this topic, I really thought long and hard about this for a long time. I've done over, I think, 50 projects around the world where we always investigated this impact of people's psychology and behavioral change. And this ranged for many industries from media, fashion, telecommunication, fast-moving consumer goods, and so on. So that's pretty much about me. And in the last line of my CV, I can add is I'm also a salsa dancer from recently.
Salsa! I love a bit of salsa.
So that's me.
So Vanja, why do you think adopting a healthy lifestyle is so difficult for people? I mean, I think just answering that question will kind of be, a light bulb for a lot of people. So what are your thoughts around that?
It's a great question. I think we are very impacted by our personal beliefs, our inner drivers, motivation, and first and foremost, our psychology. And I think many people are not even aware that our minds, conscious and subconscious, really drive so many of the decision making we do. And these decisions are related to our healthy living, or we're even dictating like people that we are friends with, the films we like, the clothes we wear. These are all the things that are really impacted by our psychology. So for example, people who are very conscientious or organized, they tend to have a very strong sense of control, and they are better at adhering at certain things like training practices or planning their meals and so on. But they can also sort of push things too far sometimes because they're perfectionists. Or on the other hand, we have people who are, for example, insecurely attached in terms of their relationships in their lives. And then that means they really are more susceptible to these external pressures to look and in a certain way, which may lead to some of the insecurities, and then also, negative eating habits and so on. So definitely our psychology and our inner worlds really drive our behavior.
Wow. I think that is really insightful, because I think over and over again, we focus on the practices or the things that we need to do, the groceries we need to buy. Even in the field that I'm in, helping people to reduce their meat intake and to eat more vegetables on a regular basis, I'm concerned about telling them what to do and what to eat. But it's just interesting to discuss that there's a deeper layer that can kind of prevent us or even maybe benefit us when we're trying to make these changes. And according to you, is personality, which is very interesting. Well, Dr. Vanja, what do you think the relationship between food and emotions is? Is there some type of connection between what we eat and how we feel?
Absolutely. I think it's a very interesting topic. I think, you may have some psychology, personality traits like neuroticism, as I mentioned earlier. And people who are neurotic, they tend to be more prone to negative emotions like stress or anxiety or sadness. And then when they feel like that, they're more prone to use comfort food and, find these coping mechanisms related to their diet. But I mean, we've all had a bad day at some point in our lives, regardless of our psychology. So I think our emotions are, even though they're transient states, they can be really, really like make us impulsive and maybe drive some behaviors that in our normal states we wouldn't necessarily, go to. But on the other hand, there's been this very interesting research that I read about, which was about joy, and I shared that with you recently. And they actually found that joy is this very interesting positive emotional state. And they found that there are some things that bring us joy, and they have patterns. So these things are like hot air balloons or sparkles or, some colorful things. So they found these are things that have a lot of colors. They're normally round in shape. And there's like a variety of these things in one place. And I just immediately thought blueberries. because they really reminded me they're round and there's a lot of them. And I really think when you see a full plate of healthy food, like there's lemons and oranges and dare I say broccoli, and all of these different healthy food can sort of like create that sense of joy. So I think that link between emotions and healthy diet really goes both ways.
It's very interesting. So you're saying there are certain things, certain characteristics about healthy food that can spark positive emotions in us that might help us to sort of, commit to a diet with a bit more consistency.
Exactly.
Wow, that's amazing.
This is like a cutting edge research. I think they're still looking into it.
Yeah, wow, very, very interesting. So Vanja, in my work sort of helping people, to increase the eating of vegetables, I found that there are some bad ways to do it and some good ways to do it, and I've run all types of interventions trying to test different options. And I found that there was this, barrier, which we call in research behavior change. So can we tell the audience today what behavior change actually is?
Yes, I think behavioral change is, I'm personally very passionate about the topic. It simply means changing a behavior in a very simple way. There is this formula of change that I've been obsessing with for the last 7 years, I think, because it's a very simple idea that if we want to change something, there's actually these 3 different aspects of change that we need to take into account. So the first one is related to our ability. And this is if we want to change, we need to be able to change. The second one is related to motivation. And I think more interestingly, it's almost wanting to change, because you may have all the tools and you may have all the information, but you actually really need to be dissatisfied with the current state and want to change. And these 2 things have to be greater than the final aspect of change, which is the obstacles or the resistance. So that's the formula of change. And I personally call it the change readiness index. We can sort of analyze it. In my field, we use data science to sort of understand what are these obstacles, and then find way to make recommendations. So it's almost the combination of a diagnosis and prescription, if you want, combination of data science and behavioral science. In terms of the obstacles, when we're talking about communicating about a healthy diet, I think one of the biggest one is the noise. If there's one thing that I really believe strongly about, it's that we are so overwhelmed with all the information that exists out there, and we really need to find communication about healthy diet that is really relevant, that is familiar, so that we can cut through the noise. And finally, it has to be really personal to the individual. There was this beautiful ad that I remember. It was about this older guy who was basically doing some exercise in the middle of the winter. And I believe if you come to him and ask him to do that, he would probably say no. But he was really persistent, and through the whole ad, you don't really know why he's doing it. And at the end, the final scene is it's a Christmas dinner, and he's actually picking up his granddaughter to put the star on the tree. And he was doing exercise because he wanted to do that. So it's almost like we really need to find what clicks with people and why they want to exercise, why they want to be a better version of themselves. And then another thing I would add is there's, in terms of obstacles, there's so many biases that we are not even aware of. So for example, there's the availability bias. So if you come home from work after a whole day, you're really tired. So you can choose between 1 hour of cooking something healthy or a cookie. So it's almost that, what do you choose? And you really need to have, a really truly strong motivation to go down the right path. So yeah, this is why I really think we need to sort of understand these obstacles, these biases, and then how to communicate.
Yeah, there's so many things you said there that really resonate with me. And I mean, when you said the noise, that's exactly what it becomes, when we turn on every, television show or news channel or podcast, and people are talking about how to change your diet. And I really feel sad for people because I think that there's always a new gimmick, and sometimes with not the greatest intentions, people are trying to sell, a solution to people over and over again. And it does become noise where people really don't know what to do to help themselves. And I also think it's interesting when you talked about this change index. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that you find that people sometimes have to come to the point of crisis.
Absolutely.
I know with, diet changes, sometimes people come, they'll have chronic diseases or illnesses, and coming to that point will help them to say, you know what, enough is enough. I'm ready to make changes. But wouldn't it be wonderful if we could make changes before we hit a crash? We want to live well before, we come to a situation where our life is ending, So is there anything that could spark that motivation, Vanja, if it doesn't exist in people? Because a lot of people know, they want to go to the gym. They know exactly what they need to buy, from the supermarket. But they might say, Vanja, I cannot motivate myself to do it. So what recommendation might you give?
It's a $1 million question, what really makes somebody change. But I wouldn't be a data scientist if I didn't give you some numbers. So it takes 21 days, as we know, to break a bad habit, but 60 days to create a new habit. And that means the magic word that I want everyone to take away from today is consistency. And I think this is really the key to behavioral change. Now, there's almost 2 paths to behavioral change that we usually see in all these interventions, and even the way the companies try to change their customers and so on. So the first one is what I like to call the dirty tricks. It's sort of the change that happens overnight that is really not sustainable. And when it comes to healthy living, it's the parallel would be you go to the gym 2 days and you really work out hard for like an hour or something, and then you just don't go for like 3 months, or you give up, you're on a diet for 7 days and then you crash. We've all been there, I think. So the idea is that the reason why these things don't work is because they really don't resonate deeply with why would you really want to change, what is the motivation behind it. And I personally believe this is why we need to start thinking about this second path of behavioral change, and that is related to our identity. And this is something that I'm very passionate about, and I really strongly believe the only sustainable change that can happen is the one where we sort of become the person, the healthy person, or whoever we want to be, the ideal version of ourselves. I think, in order to do that, there's several ways of changing our identity. I think starting small is one of the first steps. There's a book called The Atomic Habits, where somebody with the author said, you need to start creating these tiny changes in incremental ways. So, for example, you may start have an idea of who you want to be, and then start living and breathing like that person. And then create this so-called digital effect, which is really famous in marketing. So that means you start making plans for your meals, for example, and then that one small change would actually lead to another one, which is you start going to the gym. But these are all the things that are sort of compatible and they're complementary. And it's really important to sort of start small, make achievable goals, and then just be very consistent, even if it's something that you do for like 1 minute a day. And then you just build up from there. So that would be sort of my formula of change.
I love that. And I love that you talked about seeing yourself as the person who you want to be, as opposed to focusing on the negative, a person who, I need to lose weight or whatever it is that might be haunting your thoughts. You need to think of yourself as a healthy person with new healthy habits. I love this, Vanja. Thank you so much for coming out today and helping us with an issue that I think has been a real obstacle for many people. And I think you will have helped a lot of us today with your knowledge and expertise. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.